Hello, my friends. I'm back with a new episode of Explore and Engage with Anam. When the Biden administration was in power, people actually did not know what was going on. Now, you may call it the Biden administration, you may call it the Biden-Harris administration. It's up to you, whatever name you want to use. But that administration, the previous administration, that's the one I'm referring to, the Biden or Biden-Harris administration, they were not transparent. And the White House was a big mystery. And people wondered, who's really running the show? Who's in charge? It didn't seem like Biden was in charge. It did not seem like Kamala Harris was in charge. So who was really in charge? Biden was not sharp. He was not transparent. And people who observed, they could tell that Joe Biden's staff tried to keep him away from the microphone. So Biden really did not do the kind of media interviews that President Donald J. Trump does. And then sometimes Joe Biden would take selected questions from what seemed to be selected members of the press. And even then, Joe Biden struggled to answer the questions. And often, Joe Biden would get confused about where he was. He would get confused about what to say, etc. And then, it's not just Joe Biden, but his cabinet members. We never really got any useful information from them. What were they working on? I'm referring to Joe Biden's cabinet. What were they working on? What were the big projects and the priorities? What kind of day-to-day or week-to-week or month-to-month progress were they making? People didn't know the answer. The American people realized that Joe Biden's cabinet was not transparent at all. But now things are different. Those days are gone. Now things are very, very different. We have a cabinet. The Trump cabinet, President Donald J. Trump's cabinet. Finally, we have a cabinet that is actually busy working. We have cabinet members who take their positions very, very seriously. They understand their jobs, they understand their responsibilities, and they understand the meaning of transparency, they understand the meaning of accountability. And these cabinet members actually provide reports directly to the American public. If you have not watched a cabinet meeting, televised, live, then you seriously need to. Those, the question answer session, the question answer portion of the cabinet meeting, it's as the name, as I explained it, question answer. Members of the press are present, and President Donald J. Trump, he delivers his remarks, he talks, and those are not really prepared remarks. Those are just President Trump, as he always is. He will talk about whatever's on his mind, he'll give an update, and then his cabinet members also provide updates. So if you have not seen the live stream of one of those cabinet meetings, okay, if you have not seen the replay, then you need to. The videos are available on the internet. You go find those videos and you watch what happens, okay? So there was a cabinet meeting this week, and President Trump, he gathered all the cabinet members, the secretaries, and the administrators. And each of them provided a brief update. And as I said, this happened with the cameras on and everything being live streamed. And President Trump, you know, it is because of his transparency, because President Trump always has been so transparent and he continues to be so transparent, that we see the same kind of transparency in all the departments. We see the same kind of transparency among all the cabinet members, that they understand that if the commander-in-chief is reporting directly to the American public, then they also must do the same. And you watch one of these videos from the cabinet meetings, you actually get a thorough report on what the different secretaries and administrators are doing. You get very useful information about energy policy, transportation policy, immigration enforcement, and border policy, and small business, and labor, and environment, and healthcare, and much more. So if you want direct statements from the cabinet members, then you must watch one of these cabinet meetings, and I'm sure you are going to feel very proud once you do that. Very proud as an American. You can see a government that actually works, one that functions. One can see the leaders. An American can see the leaders who are seriously trying to fulfill the mission of making America great again. So the cabinet meeting that President Trump held this week was the 7th cabinet meeting of President Trump's second term in office. And it was a long meeting. And long meetings are actually good. You're getting a great view of the White House and the cabinet, and you can learn by listening to the reports in these meetings. And if you read the news afterwards, if you watch different reporters share news about these cabinet meetings afterwards, you are likely to get comments and opinions from the various political commentators who will highlight certain things and then not mention some other things. If you're watching a left-wing TV network, then you might hear people add their own spin. And in the process, the real information may be lost. In the process, you may not get the accurate information. You may not get the facts. But if you watch the actual meeting and hear directly from each of the cabinet members, then you are getting the most accurate and timely information. Now I'm going to tell you what I thought about the overall meeting, okay, the latest cabinet meeting. I think the focus was on public safety, as it should be. You know, it's of great importance, public safety. And there was also a lot of focus on private sector growth, focus on greater opportunities for the people, more opportunities for the people. The focus was also on America's competitiveness at the global level and other priorities such as energy dominance, making sure that things are affordable, and just overall making America wealthy again and safe again and great again. So one of the things highlighted during the meeting was the action that President Trump took regarding the District of Columbia. Yes, I'm talking about Washington, D.C. The American people are truly very, very happy with President Trump's decision to deploy the National Guard in D.C., in the District of Columbia. And if you talk to those who live in D.C., those who work in DC, or those who travel to DC frequently, if you talk to people like that, you will hear words of praise for the Trump administration. People are praising the Trump administration. People are very, very grateful because of the actions of President Donald J. Trump. He deployed the National Guard. He sent the National Guard to DC, and now DC, Washington, D.C. is safe again. Another highlight was about border security and immigration enforcement. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem reported that 1.6 million people decided to voluntarily leave the United States to go back to their home countries. Voluntarily, and these are individuals who were in the United States illegally. 1.6 million people who decided to leave the US. Individuals who were here illegally, they decided to leave and go back to their home countries. So this is an amazing example of, self-deportation, you can call it. Self-deportation. And if you want to know more, let me share more information with you. In less than 200 days, 1.6 million illegal immigrants left the US. In less than 200 days, the timeline is so important. It has been a little over 7 months since the Trump administration came to power. Okay? Count from January, February, 1 month, March, April, May, June, July, August. Okay, this is as I'm recording this podcast episode, it is August 27th. Okay. Early morning of August 27th. So anyway, when this report came out from the Homeland Security Department, actually this information was originally published on August 14th of 2025. So more than 10 days ago, it was published by the Department of Homeland Security, and they reported that in less than 200 days, 1.6 million illegal immigrants have left the US. So this is great news. These are results. And the Trump administration made it very clear that illegal immigrants should leave on their own. That's the best option. Okay, self-deport. So that's great. And then let's talk about Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the Health and Human Services Secretary. RFK is great. I think he's doing a great job. Let me know your thoughts. RFK Jr. also shared some updates during the meeting. And, I just love the fact how Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is really making healthcare simple. I mean, the healthcare sector is very, very complex. It's not simple, but at some point, somebody has to talk about the basics. We can talk about healthcare financing. We can talk about healthcare delivery. We can talk about insurance. We can talk about, coverage and benefits and so on and so forth. But I think we need to talk about the basics. Go back to the basics. Make healthcare simple. It's about eating good food, eating healthy food. Healthcare is about exercising, staying physically active. It's about maintaining a healthy lifestyle. And a healthy lifestyle is not just about, exercising and eating, healthy food. It's also about, staying away from things that harm the human health, like smoking and excessive drinking. So staying away from all that, It's about making sure that what RFK Jr. is trying to do. He's trying to make sure that treatments and medications are safe. A lot of medicines have a lot of side effects, and you look at the list of side effects, it's unbelievable. So, thinking about the basics of healthcare, with exercise, with healthy diet, with good lifestyle, we can try to stay healthy for as long as possible. But we're human beings, and people will have illnesses, temporary illnesses, maybe chronic illnesses. Human health, you can never guarantee that we're going to be healthy for decades and forever. There will be illnesses. There may be minor episodes of illnesses. There may be long-term problems. And if that happens, it is important to make sure that the treatments and the medications are safe. Okay? And it's about increasing efficiency in care delivery. It's about ensuring that people have access to care, that they're getting high quality care, and they're getting the high quality care at a price that they can afford. So I'm very, very eagerly looking forward to the next few months and the next few years in terms of what changes take place in the healthcare field. So we have lots of challenges, but we have to find solutions so that people can have access to high quality care at a price that they can afford. So RFK Jr., I have a lot of confidence that he's going to do a great job. I think President Trump is very happy with Secretary Kennedy's performance so far. And then there was a question that came up regarding autism. Okay, autism is something that a lot of people have been talking about, and President Trump wanted to get an update on this topic, and Secretary Kennedy said that there's going to be a major report, some major information coming out very soon regarding autism. So by soon I mean in September, and we are approaching September really fast. So my friends, as a country, we deserve information. The American people would like to get answers to questions about autism. Why is autism so widespread? Why do so many children have autism? So hopefully we can get some answers very soon. And then Secretary Kennedy also said that the government is increasing funding to rural hospitals by 50%. So that should be a great news for the rural hospitals and people who live in rural communities. And then, so moving on, let me just mention that the Environmental Protection Agency Administrator, EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, he also spoke during the meeting, and he talked about deregulation. And that's a big topic. I've talked about this before. Regulations are okay, but when there are excessive regulations, when there are way too many regulations than we need, that's a problem. So, any good government is going to try to cut red tape and try to deregulate, okay? Remove the excessive, unnecessary regulations. So, Lee Zeldin obviously doing a great job. And then if you want to talk about the cabinet meeting in general, there was discussion about workforce and education and more. So watch the entire video if you have not done so yet. And each of these topics then could be broken up for more detailed discussion. You want to talk about workforce, we can talk about workforce for hours. You want to talk about education, we can talk about that. You want to talk about healthcare, we can just, talk for hours about healthcare. So, there's a lot to talk about. So, what I can tell you, my friends, in general, I have a feeling that things are getting better. That's what I think. Okay? There's hope. And I do talk about hope a lot. And some of you may be saying, Tassif, you talk about hope and optimism a lot, because I am hopeful and I am very, very optimistic. And there is hope. You just have to open your eyes and you have to look at the things that are happening, the things that the Trump administration is doing, the things that the Republicans in Washington are doing. There is hope. Good things are happening. Okay? But you know what? There's still a lot of resistance from the left, like there always is. It seems that no matter what President Trump does, the Democrats will find a reason to complain. And it's reaching a point of absurdity. It's becoming absurd. For example, now the Democrats are against deployment of trained personnel to combat crime. I'm talking about National Guard deployment. There's a possibility that the National Guard may be deployed to Chicago, which, if it happens, I think it is going to greatly benefit Chicago. But the Democrats are against that. The Democrats are against the deployment of National Guard in Chicago. How can anyone be against that? We want safe communities, and Chicago is not safe. And President Trump can make it safe. President Trump can get the job done. He can make Chicago safe again. And one way to do it would be to deploy the National Guard, but the Democrats are opposed to it. So this is the current state of the Democrats. I'll let you judge. No matter what President Trump does, the Democrats just oppose that. Anyway, whenever I see these cabinet meetings, I feel proud of the decision that we made in November of 2024 by voting for Donald J. Trump. We are getting reports from the cabinet members. We know what they are doing for the American people. We know what keeps them busy. We know what these cabinet members are accomplishing. We know what challenges remain and more. We're getting a lot of information, and this is really setting a very high standard for future administrations. When the American people see these meetings and they can watch the live updates, this is what people are going to expect from future administrations years and years down the road. So this is really a very high standard that the Trump administration is setting. And this is really a turning point in American history. There's greater transparency in the current administration than we've ever seen before with past administrations, with other administrations. There's greater transparency in the Trump administration, and the American people feel genuinely connected to the Trump administration. So, my friends, you're going to have to share your thoughts with me. I talk a lot because obviously that's the reason why I do these podcast episodes, why I have this podcast, because I have a lot to talk about and a lot to share, and that's what I do. But I also want to hear from you. So if you have watched the cabinet meeting, let me know what your thoughts are. If you have not watched it, please go ahead and do so. Watch it. Watch the replay. Okay? And then share with me your thoughts. And you can share with me whatever thoughts you have. What do you think of the administration, the Trump administration? How would you grade the performance, the overall performance of this administration? I would give it an A plus, actually, A plus. Absolutely. So share with me your thoughts, my friends. You can go to my website, tassifanam.net. Once you're on my website, you can send me a message. You can also email me directly. My email address is tassif@tassifanam.net. You can also find me on social media. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on X, and I'm also on Truth Social. So connect with me, share with me your thoughts. And once again, my friends, thank you so very much for continuing to listen to my podcast. And I hope to be back again soon with a new episode of Explore and Engage with Anand.